It may not be very good, but The Lost World is my favorite movie in the Jurassic Park franchise. And not just because it features a stick-shift Mercedes ML. Courtesy spoiler alert, but at the end of JP2, a T-Rex gets loose in San Diego. And for some reason, I just love the idea of two different time periods colliding like that. And that doesn't just apply to movies, which explains why the Toyota Land Cruiser is one of my favorite vehicles on sale today. The Land Cruiser may look like a thoroughly modern SUV with its LED lights and exterior cameras, but there's actually a prehistoric beast lurking beneath this sheet metal. And I'm not just talking about an old chassis, which it actually is, but rather the kind of old school SUV DNA Toyota's managed to splice into its modern day Land Cruiser. Allow me to explain what I'm talking about. When the SUV first climbed out of the automotive gene pool, it was designed exclusively to go off-road. You got a rugged design, four-wheel drive, and, well, that was pretty much it. Even doors were considered a luxury item in the early days of the SUV. But over the years, the SUV began to evolve. Doors and windows became standard features. Creature comforts like automatic transmissions and air conditioning became available. Pretty soon, the descendants of the Willys Jeep were just as comfortable as normal passenger cars. It's at this point that the SUV family tree split into two distinct branches. The vast majority of SUVs continue to evolve to get more car-like. They lost their truck frames and four-wheel drive systems became less complex. But there's a small segment of the SUV population that remained historically accurate. And the Toyota Land Cruiser is one of those vehicles. Yes, it's gotten bigger and more luxurious over the years, but a lot of the original SUV fundamentals are here. It's rugged, it's dependable, and it can go pretty much anywhere. This is the automotive equivalent of a T-Rex let loose in San Diego. In keeping with that theme, Toyota's given the Land Cruiser the appetite of a large meat eater. Under hood, you won't find a hybrid system or some kind of turbocharged four-cylinder, but rather a big old-fashioned V8. This is the same basic 5.7-liter unit you'll find in the Toyota Tundra, and it makes 381 horsepower and 401 pound-feet of torque. Now, those very big numbers mean the fuel economy are quite small numbers. This gets 13 miles per gallon in the city and 18 miles per gallon on the highway, and those figures are despite an 8-speed automatic transmission. Around back, you'll find the Land Cruiser's vestigial tail, a split tailgate. This used to be a common feature on a lot of SUVs, but it's largely died out. But I actually like the design because you can load stuff in here, and then when they inevitably fall out of the grocery bag or whatever on their way home, this little bit keeps everything from falling out when you open the trunk. And also, this folds down, so you've got a nice bench for your tailgate. But really, that's where the dinosaur comparisons end for the Land Cruiser. And here, it just feels like a modern vehicle. There's a big touchscreen infotainment system in the middle of the dash, heated and cooled seats, a heated steering wheel, and seats so comfortable, I wish they were in my living room. But those are the kind of features you'd expect from an $85,000 vehicle. Yes, you heard that right. The base price of a new Land Cruiser with destination is just over $85,000. While paying $85,000 for a Toyota may sound crazy, you have to consider how overbuilt the Land Cruiser is. Every component is beefier and more durable than it has to be. Toyota even uses thicker glass in the Land Cruiser than it does in its normal cars. There's a reason that the Land Cruiser is the UN's vehicle of choice. The Land Cruiser also has a lot of advanced software to make the most of its capable hardware. Down here in the center console, you'll find a knob for crawl control. Now, basically, crawl control is Toyota's all-encompassing off-road system. Crawl control uses the vehicle's various systems like ABS and traction control to keep the Land Cruiser going even when there's very little traction. In fact, this system is so good, you can actually bury the Land Cruiser up to its axles in sand, and it'll crawl its way out. That's certainly impressive, but I think the most impressive part about the Land Cruiser is the way it drives. Here I am piloting a big burly SUV that can go pretty much anywhere I point it, yet it's just luxury car smooth. This irons out uneven pavement like a supersized Mercedes S-Class. And even though this weighs roughly the same as a Brontosaurus, it really can get up and go. Weight isn't the only thing the Land Cruiser has in common with the Brontosaurus. This is a tall vehicle. Now, that means the driver gets a commanding view of the road, which is kind of a rarity today. A lot of automakers have moved to car-based platforms for their SUVs and crossovers, so you feel a lot more low-slung in the car. But this, I feel like I'm sitting up high and I'm taller than everything around me that's not a tree. Now, of course, that extra height does mean it rolls a bit through the corners, but body lean really is well controlled. It also helps the steering is very good in this. It's got a good weight to it, and it's really direct. Being a flagship vehicle, the Land Cruiser has a lot of technology, but it's not quite cutting edge. Let's start with the good. A couple of years ago, Toyota added a 360-degree cam and blind spot monitoring with cross-path detection alert to the Land Cruiser as standard equipment. Both of those are very good things considering the Land Cruiser's size. This also has emergency braking and adaptive cruise control, but it doesn't have a stop-and-go function, so you can't use it for driving in traffic. Likewise, this has lane departure warning, but it won't actually steer the vehicle back in the lane for you. The infotainment is okay, but I'd like to see more from an $85,000 vehicle. The resolution isn't the greatest, and there's no Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It's also slightly annoying that you have to go into the screen to adjust the fan speed and fan direction. A physical button would make much more sense for a vehicle that still uses a digital clock from 1994. But to make up for that, Toyota has included a refrigerator beneath the center armrest. You win, Toyota. As I mentioned earlier, comfort is a strong suit of the Land Cruiser, both for first and second row occupants. The third row, however, is a bit of a different story. First of all, the third row doesn't fold into the floor like in a lot of other SUVs, but rather has a split design and then folds up against either side of the vehicle. Now, Toyota had to go with its design because there's a lot of stuff under this load floor, like a big solid rear axle. This design does limit the width of the Land Cruiser's cargo area, but it is still rather tall, so there's plenty of room for a run to Costco. Getting the third row into position is a three-part job, but it is pretty simple and straightforward. First, you pull this lever here, and that unlatches the seat from the wall. Then you pull it down, and then there's a strap on the back of the seat. You pull that, the backrest comes up, and then you can simply pull the headrest up. Now, obviously, if you want the full bench, you just do the same thing on the other side, too. Now, to get it down, it's just basically the reverse. There's a lever here, you pull that, that flops down. Pull that, the seat folds forward, and it actually has a hydraulic strut. So all you have to do is pull that little latch, and it automatically flops up for you. With the third row in place, you actually have 3 additional seats back here, but I really wouldn't want to share this bench with 2 other people. In fact, I really don't want to be in here by myself. I really don't have any legroom and my head barely fits. But that said, there's enough room back here for a short trip, and I'm sure children wouldn't mind the cramped quarters. And so that's the 2018 Toyota Land Cruiser, a prehistoric SUV that you can still buy brand new today. Overall, I absolutely adore the Land Cruiser. It's supremely comfortable, can truly go anywhere, and despite being a full-size SUV, it's only about 2 inches longer than a Toyota Highlander, so it's not ridiculous to park. Unfortunately, fuel economy is ridiculous, and the infotainment system feels like a generation behind. But those are 2 sacrifices I'd gladly make to park this big, lovable dinosaur in my garage.